This is Brian Robertson, and today's date is February the 23rd, 2011, and we're in the Arkansas Studies Institute doing an interview for the Arkansas Korean War Project for the Butler Center for Arkansas Studies. And your name, sir?
Carl Hines.
Mr. Hines, I always start these interviews first question I always ask is when and where you were born.
I was born November 13, 1929 in Sweet Home, Arkansas.
Who were your parents? What were their names?
My father was Guy Hines and my mother was Blanche Haley Hines.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I had two brothers and one sister. My oldest brother, Guy Hines, Guy Jr., and my sister was next was Florence Hines Brown. She's in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm the third. And then there was a baby boy, Charles Hines, and he's in Atlanta, Georgia. He's blind now, but he's in Atlanta, Georgia. And there's not but three of us now. My oldest brother, he's deceased, so it's my sister, my baby brother, and I.
So did you grow up around Sweet Home?
I grew up around Sweet Home.
What was that like?
It was great. We had separate schools, but the community there wasn't any difference in color, race, anything like that. The boys and all, we all grew up together, we played together, we ate together. If they got a whipping, I got a whipping. Hey, my mother wouldn't know about it. And if I would go home with anything belonged to any of my friends, like Sammy and David, those white boys, buy something like my mother asked me, whose was it? And I'd tell her. And she wanted to know, did the mother know that I had it? So I don't know. She carried back. You know, parents always knew what was going on, what you come home with, who it belonged to, where you got it.
Yeah.
And parents always kept with each other, so that was pretty well where I grew up, you know.
Yeah. Now, what did your dad do?
My dad, he worked Jamaica Bell. Well, he was a painter.
Okay.
Painted for Bell Chevrolet Company, Jamaica Bell, and then Bell Chevrolet Company painted automobiles there.
Yeah. So I know you would have been a kid at the time, but do you remember much about growing up during the Depression, what that was like?
Yeah. Across the street there was a service station with the old pumps. I used to go there and pump gas and things, about 10 cents a gallon or something like that. But I know that during the time of sugar and flour and meal and all the ration and stuff like that, and we used to have a barrels, and that's what I knew about the weaving and stuff like that. You'd have to put the flour and sugar, and then flour sacks, you'd make aprons and stuff out of the material. But during that time, things were ration and stuff like that, and I do remember how my mother and dad used to, you know, make ends meet, you know, and how to survive, you know, make things last. And a lot of things like they used to make their own soap, lye soap, you know. And that was to kill hogs and all that. Most everything that they killed was used to make soap or lard or whatever, you know. And they used the head and the feet and the tails. Most of all the part of the hogs, the intestines, they would make chitlins out of them. Person they wanted worse for the head make, and then they would share with each other. So that's pretty well the way it was when I grew up. You know, everything was pretty tight. And we'd have shoes in the summertime. We went barefooted in order to survive, have shoes and things in the winter.
Right.
And that's pretty well where I grew up, you know, how to survive and how to make ends meet and how to do with or without the resources and things you had.
Right. So, you know, World War II, or United States got involved in World War II in 1941 after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Did you follow that much as far as what was going on with World War II? I know you had been a little older by then.
No, didn't follow it too much no more, because when I lived at Sweet Home, when I went to grade school in Sweet Home, from there I went to Bush, which is in Little Rock, and then I went to, then we from Sweet Home to Dunbar, and my mother would always take her to school, and the Lee family on Ringo Street, we stayed there till she picked her up, and we got older a lot of times. We would walk from Dunbar to Sweet Home, and that's where we would travel back and forth.
Right.
And during that time, I knew about it. It was on the news, so I didn't keep up with it much, but no more with my mother and daddy. Sometimes we didn't have TV, we had radio and the newspaper. And that's about the only thing that we had to go by. So I do know the time when Pearl Harbor struck, everybody got excited over the war, and kind of big commotion about it. But I was young and riding bicycles and fishing in the woods. So.
Yeah. More important thing or other things to worry about. Yeah, being a kid. Yeah, I understand that.
But I do remember, how food and everything. Now people had to, do without that. The neighbors shared and discussed different stuff, A lot of things they would say around saying they wouldn't, So they're more protective of us than they are now, They make sure that we heard the right thing and were involved in the right situation and stuff,
Right. So how did you end up in the service?
Well, after I finished high school, I had an uncle and aunt in Gary, Indiana, and had a body shop. And, I could have gone to drafting in Tuskegee, but I chose to go to Indiana where my uncle was and learn auto body repair work. I stayed there. Then I came home and I decided, I enlisted in service before that, but at the time my brother was in service and they wouldn't take but one at the time. I remember the little star you had to put on the door that somebody was in service. And I was in active duty, kind of reserve like, and then when he came out, I went regular Army, RA, and I went to Rock Island Station. My mother met me there, and I shipped out to Fort Knox, Kentucky, basic training. And in Fort Knox, I joined the band. Didn't play it that much because the next thing they took the horn away from me and the rifle was all shipped. So they shipped me out from there to Seattle, Washington, and from there to overseas, Japan and Korea.
Now, when did you actually join the service?
December 7th, 1949.
49, okay. So do you remember you shipped out from Seattle to go overseas? Do you remember roughly when that would have been? Would that have been sometime in 50, I guess?
Yeah, in 50.
Okay. Had the Korean War already started?
It had already started.
It had already started when you shipped out, okay. Do you remember much about the trip over across the Pacific, what that was like?
Yeah, we in Seattle, they were there till we got ready to depart from overseas, Japan. Well, they shipped out, and on the way over, to cross the, what do you call it, when you're going over the equator.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think what it is.
Yeah, and they initiate going over.
Right.
And I do remember that, being initiated and stuff like that. And then on the ship and the waves, stuff like that. Yeah, it was kind of excited like, but that's why I don't prove what I'm trying to. On the ship, just sitting and eating. Your plate might slide down the next one and stuff like that. And I know you go to the head, which is the bathroom, and you sitting on the john, the ship will go up and you up and down. and when they dropped the anchor, that was the worst feeling you ever had, when they docked and dropped the anchor and that chain was running down there. It kind of, nerve-wracking kind of get to you, because that's was experience, excited, stuff like that, because you going into Japan and overseas, and knew the war, it kind of didn't know what was going on, so that was kind of...
Right. Did you get seasick at all while you were going over?
No, not really. You know, they always kind of tell you how to do. You know, when we go out on the deck, but I stayed down most because you go out on the top, you would get seasick. So most time, you know, food and stuff like that. Watch what you eat, stuff like that. So I didn't really get seasick.
That's good. And so you went from Seattle to Japan?
Japan.
Yeah.
And
were you in Japan long? Did you do any kind of training or anything while you're there?
No, they just assign you to equipment, stuff like that. So they assigned me into trucking department. So I drove a truck. They sent me over with a truck and everything. Mm-hmm. And over there, once I got in Korea, I was go out hauling fuel and dead bodies.
Now, where did you land in Korea? Do you remember?
Where was Busan, right?
Busan was down kind of in the southeast, way down at the bottom.
I think that's where.
Yeah, I think that's where most people went in at. It was Busan.
Yeah.
Do you remember much about what that was like when you went off the ship there? You know, it's a whole different world over there in Korea.
It's a whole different world. And I was assigned to the trucking department, and I was at the 24th Infantry Regiment, 25th Division, 24th Infantry Regiment, which is a black regiment. And it was a whole different story. But, you know, we're driving a truck in the war and combat zone and going through areas with blackouts. You had to learn how to maneuver through and what to watch out for landmines and stuff like that, and the convoys and stuff like that. So that you had to have pretty sturdy nerves. You had to be pretty cool to do that. So I learned to adjust to it. You know, you never say you get used to it, but it's a job you had to do. But the worst thing I would hate it, you're taking fuel that when you come back and you go out close to the battle zone, you have the corps, you know, and you have a load of them, and you drive along the road, blackout, no lights, no nothing, and they're full of air, and they're stacked on top of it, they grunt and groan, and you know when they're dead or alive, and that will eat your heart out.
That would bother me.
It would really eat your heart out, and that was the worst part of the whole thing during that time before I got into what was driving a colonel in a Jeep in a class ring. Well, there's a certain way used to drive. He would always stand up, you know, and I had my hand on the dash windshield down, and a landmine hit it, and it went between the seat there and threw me out there with him that way. And then after that, I got through with that. But I still in the truck department. We go in the battle zone, and then the schoolyard. I remember we were in the schoolyard, and we'd always sleep in the back of the truck. And that particular night, the schoolyard was raided, and they shot up everything, and I was in a sleeping bag, and I said, don't move, let's don't move. So when everything quieted down, I jumped up and ran and got in the foxhole, and the two boys on the side of me, you know, if I shoot, they were already killed them, and we stayed around there a while.
Do you remember when or where that was?
Not really, because I kind of blocked all that out to come back, because every time it backfired, something like that, I jumped in the ditch and going on, I kind of worked that out in the system where I kind of blocked a lot of the memories.
Now, were you there when the Army went north into North Korea?
Mm-hmm.
So you were there?
We crossed over to North Korea, and we crossed over and
now, were you at the bunch that went up almost to the Yalu River?
Almost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's that, but the outfit did, but trucking department, you know, we'd always do supplies. We were
Right.
in the battle zone, but we wasn't really an infantry, you know. I was signed to the infantry division, but I was, you know, supplies and trucking.
So what
Spent a lot
everybody?
of time in foxholes and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah. Well, when they, so you were in, I guess that would have been the 8th Army, I think.
No, 25th Division.
Okay.
Yeah, 24th Infantry Regiment.
Okay. So when
I
you,
remember when the first cavalry came over, you know. I remember when they came in, first cavalry. I don't know what date, but I know they came over with artillery.
right. So do you remember much about when y'all were heading north, what that was like? I mean,
We would load up, and then everything was going pretty smooth. They were fighting pretty good, and looked like we were making progress, gaining ground, and got over there, and looked like they would retreat, and they'd regroup. The next thing you know, just like the cowboy and Indian picture, so many of them, so we had to retreat and go right back across, and leave everything behind. We'd have to get up and go. So that was pretty exciting, you know. You go and you come back, and then they say you go again, and you hate to go, but what it's gonna be like. So.
so what was the weather like while you were up there?
Well, the weather, it was good weather. I remember one time it tried to, only one time I remember it tried to snow a little bit, but other than that, the weather was good. Just, I had no problem with the weather.
So how would you say you guys were supplied? Were you supplied pretty well? Did you have everything you needed?
Yeah, we were supplied pretty well. You know, we had a lot of sea rations, and then I drove truck with the mess hall with the food and the mess sergeant, and well, he was kind of on the gay side like that. As long as everything went his way and you treat him right, you got plenty of food, and that was fine. You know, you respect him and stuff like that, and then you know. Broadcast his business, how he was or something like that. If he approached you, just turn him off and let it alone. You did fine. But if you said anything to anybody, you might well go back and eat your sea ration. But then, you know, mess hall, the other time I maybe peel potatoes or something like that, do like to it. But the food was fine. And one time we were out, and we were stranded out, and we ran up on Papa's son, and he was roasting. And we decided we would invade and get someone he was roasting. We didn't want. He kept hollering bow wow, bow wow, but it was good. Head and tail, feet off, and it was roasting good, smelled good. And after we got through eating, Ben said, "Bow, what you eating?" He said, "Dog, bow wow, I mean dog." So, and then shortly after that, we went up on the brewery. We had all the beer on there. It was the best beer you could drink. But over in the vat, that was about it. So, you know, you didn't know what you were doing. That's why I'm saying it's just a wonder. You know, we left there with health as we were. But it was a challenge. It was, you know, it was exciting. A lot of fear in it and a lot of action. But you knew how to survive and how to stay together and look out for each other. That's the main thing. Watch each other's back. That's the main thing. During that particular time, is knowing what to look out for, what to do, staying together.
Yeah.
Obey orders. You know.
Right. So do you remember any kind of funny moments, or I know we get a bunch of guys together. There's a lot of goofing off sometimes and kind of messing
Yeah, they
around.
did a lot of singing and a lot of acting and a lot of comedians and stuff like that. But you know, at night they would do a lot of crazy things, and I know one while we had a box in the school, and they short sheets. You know, you go in, you know, and you get ready to get into bed, and they take the sheet, fold it back. It looked like you got two sheets, and you get ready to go in and You don't have a sheet, and then they cock the bed, and everybody, go to bed, and bunk would fall down, and they would laugh, and then they catch some joke to snore, and they'd take shaving cream or something like that, put all around him when he wiped his mouth, he wanted to fight. But those were funny moments, how you would, do different ones and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, but it was kind of crazy, but there was a lot of fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And every time a man jumped up and wanted to fight, you'd always point the fun at somebody else.
Yeah. So, what would you say was a typical day for you? What was a normal day? You get up in the morning and then what?
A normal day was when everything was quiet, peaceful like, and you were somewhere in a village, and you'd maybe stroll out through the village or something like that, and see how they lived, and meet the papa son and maybe the family, something like that, and they had this, in the beds, the floor, they slept on the floor, but it was heat from the outside, and had tongs where the smoke go out the other side, and the floor was hot. And on their blankets, they warmed the brick stuff, and they put under the cover. And we tried that time to day out, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were real nice, and the living, how they lived, and how they fertilized their crops. Got a chance to go in the village to see all that, and kind of visit and learn some of the language and some of the culture and some of the things they did. That was the most exciting part, to see how they lived and some of the things they did, how they survived.
So how would you say that they reacted to you guys being there? I mean, were they happy to see you, or they wanted you to go away? Or?
No, they wasn't hostile. It didn't seem like it, Mm-hmm. The only way that they were kind of hostile, if you were, like, a lot of fellas, their women, their daughters and their wives, men, they're crazy about it. They go in and then they want to take over and mess with wife. Then they would kind of irritate Papa Son. He kind of, But other than that, they welcome into the village, and they, smoked their little pipes and stuff like that. And I guess you would call it marijuana or something, because it smelled funny, stuff like that, and they would smoke it and stuff like that. I never did try it, but you there, you inhale it, you breathe it, it's funny smell and stuff like that. But they were pretty. It wasn't too hostile. They were pretty nice about where I was. Anyway, they weren't too hostile. The only time you knew they were hostile when some of the fellows would go in the village and take care of and that's why a lot of times you see the women, they were hired because men in service, most men, they just take advantage of women and they don't see any, so they figure they do what they want to do, which wasn't right, but that's the only time that I could see them being a little hostile towards service.
Right. Did you ever run into any of the other Allied troops there from other countries? Did you ever have any interaction with those guys?
No, not really. The only ones that I knew were there, they were up in a different bracket, different class, maybe some officers, some different rank or something like that, communicate, but we knew there were some over there, but never did run into any of the other troops, work with or things like that. We were always, this particular group together.
Right. But was your unit, you said it was a segregated unit, was it segregated the whole time that you were?
Well, this was a 24th Infantry Blockout. It was a all-black regiment. And we never worked together, And we went up and fight a unit, Never was around too many other. On the first Cav, it was artillery. We saw a lot of them, but we never did spend too much time, together. Or like I carried supplies and I'd see a lot of them, but I never spent times in areas like in camp, or when we camp out, something like that. You know. Only officers, or maybe a white officer or something like that, but most of completed black regiment.
Right. So, how often would you go out, you know, in your truck delivering supplies and stuff? You do that every day, or?
Every day, night, day, just let it go.
So how did that work? Did you know the day before what you were going to do, or when you got up in the morning, they'd just tell you you're going to go such and such place at whatever time?
Before I got assigned to the mess hall, hauling kitchen supplies, I stayed on the, you know, with that mess hall. My truck was there, that's what load, unload, and I stayed there around the kitchen all the time. But before they were hauling fuel, they load you up and, you know, you go every day. And when you get there, coming back, if they had a lot of carrots or something like that, they load you up and you come back. But you was pretty well gone. And most of the time we were doing it at night. Most time at night, you know, I guess to keep seeing, we had this truck for a blackout, you know, and all see just a little light, you follow a little light. You know?
Right. So the fuel, was it in big, like 55-gallon drums or something?
55-gallon drum.
Yeah.
We take the fuel in and come back. And during the time when I was driving, some of the trucks was come up missing. I don't know how, but you know, at night you don't know, or you know that come up missing, you know, hijacked or what happened. You know.
Right.
All I tried to do was survive and get back myself. You need to go try to look for nobody.
Right. So when you were in camp, did you guys mostly sleep in tents, or did you sleep in buildings sometimes?
Well, a lot of times in buildings, a lot of times in tents. We had a little tent, you know, in the backpack stuff. We made our tent, you know. It wasn't a big tent. We had our own individual, maybe two to a tent, and you had your own tent, something like that. And if you had a chance to, maybe there's a schoolhouse or something like that building, we would share that. We would go and share that. But most time, you know, you're in the tent or something like that, or in the back of your truck.
Right. So did you keep in touch with home at all while you were over there?
You could write, and you had mail called, and you get your mail, and then you could write. And when you felt like it, or when you had time to write, you know, you'd write, send a card home, say a few words, and then you get something like that. We stayed on the go, so sometimes you get it, sometimes, you know, it wouldn't. But everything worked pretty smoothly, like, you know. I'm just blessed that, you know, a lot of them I left over there. And I think I ran across, years later after that, one fella that went from Knox on the overseas with me, was still living, but the rest of them I don't know what happened to them.
Right. So what did your folks think about you being over there?
They never said anything, you know. You know, when my brother was in, they never did, didn't seem like they worried too much, you know. We always had prayers and stuff like that. And all of my uncles and aunts, they were in the teaching profession and stuff like that, taught school and stuff like that. My grandfather, he came from Bowling Green, Kentucky. He was an educator and a veterinarian. My dad, and my mother did when my brother was in service. All they did was just try to keep things going here at home. They didn't worry too much. And I do remember during the time in World War II, the what was that outfit? Was it the 96th Airborne Black Outfit? They came through Little Rock.
Huh.
and they were the roughest bunch, man. They came through in a convoy. And I don't know what's wrong with it, but I do remember one or two days, that was a rough outfit. And because they come through there and they turn them corners and stuff like that, and what fell off the truck, they just kept and they wouldn't take it, they were just ready in a hurry to go. And my mom and dad kept us close to the house because we didn't want nothing to happen because them fellas wasn't playing.
Right. Right. So while you were over in Korea, did you ever get any leave? No leave?
No leave. Oh, you didn't get no leave over there because you pretty well stayed close to the unit because if you wanted off, you might not come back.
Right. Right. So, do you remember about how long you were over there in Korea?
Let's see. I came to the state, Fort Hood, Texas. And I think I stayed in Fort Hood. That's where college was on in Fort Hood, Texas. I guess I'm a year, I know.
Yeah, probably about a year, I guess. Do you remember when you went over there? Do you remember about when it was that you got in Korea? Or the time of year or anything like that?
I think it was in 50. Yeah, it was in 50, the year 50. But I didn't stay in for not long.
Yeah. Was it cold when you got over there?
No.
It wasn't cold? So.
No, it wasn't cold.
So.
You know, you got clothes, but it really wasn't cold, you know, like
right.
Real cold, you know.
Right.
You had sufficient clothes and stuff like that to have a cold. You didn't have to worry about no fire, building no fire, standing around a fire, nothing like that.
Okay. So, how do you remember much about when you finally left? I mean, what was that? How did that feel once you found out that you're gonna get?
Well, we were all in the school, and they were trying to figure out how you're gonna get discharged and come back to the States. And we were all laying there, and our weapons was by beside us. And several fellas, I know how they got just to come home. They bust a kneecap. They bust a kneecap, or either have you. Cause one fella said, when everybody go to sleep, pull the trigger and shoot him in the foot. And I felt it, but I couldn't do it.
No.
But they would shoot themselves in the foot, or take and bust the kneecap. And I tapped mine to see how it feels. That's the worst thing I did. Hit him, but I tapped it, and that knee bothered me for a long time ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with my knees.
Yeah. So, but after they did it, I hit it, and you could feel it, the kneecap, I said, nah, I can't do that. So, but that rocked on until later on, and they decided, they'd ship us back to the States. Before that, that's how they was getting home, but the outfit, they finally sent us back to the States, sent us to Fort Hood, Texas, and that's where I stayed until when the postal unit there. And lucky to be, I got busted. I was a corporal. Went to Temple, Texas, and they had a curfew. Be back. And that's during the time that I missed the bus.
Uh-oh.
And the fellas got killed. The bus had the big wreck when all the buses run together. I wasn't on the bus, but I got busted for not being back on post in time. So I guess blessing I took the cut and rank.
Right.
And being there. And then I got married, and then we moved off base into Killeen, Texas, right outside the base there. But while living on post, Carla was born. After she was born, we moved off base and stuff like that. But we came back to Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. That was something else, you know. Drill had maneuvers and things like that. We go out, come back, and had truck inspections. You'd have to wash it down, and we would motor oil to shine them and clean them. And you know, it pick up a lot of dust and stuff, but you could wash it right off, and they walk through everything, gloves and all the inspections. And we still had maneuvers and stuff like that, and I went in the post office and sorted mail and stuff like that. That's where I was discharged.
So did you come back to Arkansas after that?
I came back to Arkansas after that. And then I left and went to Omaha, Nebraska, and worked there for a while, and then wound up in Kansas City, Missouri, and worked there. And then finally came back to Arkansas.
Yeah.
But the war was, I'm blessed because a lot of things that, you know, I saw and I remember. And when I came back, the hardest thing was getting used to noises and things. You know, you release a little bump, you kind of jitter and jerk it like. And I know when I lived down 3rd and Wood, the rock where, what was it, the Big Rock.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a lot of blasting then. And that was pretty close to it. And I don't know, I was cleaning the yard one day and go across the street in the woods over there and throw the leaves over. I went to throw the leaves, and by the time they blasted me, the leaves now went to hit the ditch. And every time something like that, I was jumping. I finally worked myself out to, I live out the close to the highway door, God bless it. The airplanes come over and the train bumping at night. I wake up, but I kind of blocked all of this wall stuff out. I used to watch pictures and get water out and stuff like that, because it remind you of different stuff like that. But other than that, it was, but like I say, I kind of blocked most of the stuff out. Now, a friend of mine, a classmate, like Jack Gilbert, he get to talking, and you remind, he can remember names, stuff like that, and you'll remember, but he remember names and stuff than I do. Sometimes we sit there and talk, and we get to laugh, and he said, "You remember?" And I remember, you know, but it's something you have to bring it back to me and point it out. Say, "You remember so-and-so?"
Right.
And he called the name. I said, "That name?" He said, "Yeah, you know it." Yeah, well, yeah, I remember that. And I asked him, "Well," he said, "that was such a place. That was." I said, but that it's exciting. Sometimes when I talk to him, he comes over and he did Pine Bluff. Now he moved back and he's down to Pine Bluff.
Uh-huh. So let me ask you, you know, after us getting involved over there in Korea, do you think that was the right thing for us to do or the wrong thing for us to do? You think we should have been over there, or you think we should have just left them alone and let them sort it out themselves?
Really hadn't thought about it, but I don't see anything that they gained from it. I don't see anything over there that I could see was worth fighting for, you know. I don't know what we were fighting for. All I do know that we go over and come back, and whether it was territory but I don't see no factories or nothing that valuable, because the food stuff was fertilized with human waste and stuff like that. And they didn't have all the resources of food that we had here. So I don't see why they, you know, what the purpose of it was.
Right. Well, is there anything else you want to share with us before we wrap it up for the day?
Well, no more than I wish they could have gotten Jack, and he could have maybe made it more interesting and pointed out more places, more specific. But I'll talk to him. He said an interview with him, and then maybe that would help more or less. And like I say, that's about the only thing I do that it was experience. I learned something from it. It's better than college. You get an education in maybe in math and stuff, but for science and experience, I think every man, not during wartime, should go into service. Because he can further his education service, because they have schools there. You can go to anything, but you learn discipline, you learn how to act, you learn how to be a man, a productive person, because it teaches discipline and everything like that. Now, all these kids in school talk like that, and I figured that what they passed a law that instead of alternative school, if you're old enough, they had these boot camps and stuff like that. And you got enough military men and old fellas still in reserve and still that like military work. Assign them to them and let them teach them. Go out and teach them how to operate machinery or do something constructive, so that then they can prepare themselves for jobs, in civilian life without going to jail.
Right.
Because right now we have a mentoring group at Dunbar, and it save a few of them, some of them you don't. But a lot of them are smart and everything, but they like discipline at home and following orders, obeying orders. And I think every man should spend some time in the military, peacetime and stuff like that, because he can go to school there, then he get a chance to travel the world and see where.
Right.
So it was an experience to me, and I learned a lot from it. And I try to pass it on to my boys and kids at school.
That's good.
What's being disciplined, and following orders. You might not be always right, and to listen. Don't be the person open out to listen, and before you speak, or sometimes you say things and wish you. But that's what it taught me, being overseas and going over there and seeing the culture and how people live, and to be able to appreciate coming home to where things may not be like we want it.
Right.
But all we got to do is wait on the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people we sing these songs every day, and you don't have to go to church every day to really believe something like that. But live in the right way. Trust in the Lord, wait on Him, take your burden to the Lord, and people sing these songs and they don't know what they're singing. So that's where you survive in the military. We all had a little pocket Bible books, and they said that. So if you kept one of those and you read anything out of it and you believe, you can survive anything. So that's what I'm saying about the military. And that's the experience I got from being in service and going to Korea, and the culture and the people. Then you know what it's all about.
Right.
I didn't know what much I was fighting for, but it was just there. You just have to follow orders and do what you're told, and ask no questions.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you for visiting with us today.
Thank you, and enjoy it. I wish I could have been more help.
Oh, no, you did an excellent job. Excellent job.